Hello everybody, how's it going? My name is byzantinesoul, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Today we're going to be talking about the best manga I read in 2024. Hold on, 2024. Did I do that right? I don't know. We're going to be talking about the best manga I read in 2024, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of a top 10 list, but I will be doing, I'll mention some other series, and at the end, we're going to have a little fun little treat, so stay tuned. In 2022, I read over 2,000 manga. In 2024, I did not read quite as much manga, but I did read a lot, many of which, of course, were older manga that I finished for the first time, but I did read a ton of new manga this year, and I want to tell you guys all about the manga that I read that I think is worth checking out. Now, let's talk about some manga that I think is worth your time. Let's do a top 10 list, all right? Snap, 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 snap. Editor, it's me, I'm the editor. Future me, editor. Snap, snap, transition, brother. Me when I was 16. Anyway, let's keep going. Snap. There we go. Number 10 is going to be a manga by the name of Maga ni nate ita yojo wo tasuke tara otonari ni sumu shoujo ryo ga kisei ga ii ne asubi ni kuru no ii nata ken ni zute. I messed up in there in the middle. Because I didn't remember that off the top of my head, but the English translation is the story of how I met a beautiful foreign student who lives next door, started to visit my house after I helped a lost little girl, which is a light novel adaptation of the light novels authored by Neko Kuro, with the manga art being done by an artist by the name of Pentagon. Akihito is a high schooler living on his own who tends to play the social sacrifice in situations at school, kind of Hachiman style, except people actually like Akihito from the get-go, which I think is the main difference here. One day, Charlotte Bennett, a student from England, transfers into his class. On the way home that day, he finds a young girl crying in the street, but nobody's helping her because they don't understand English, because she's crying in English. Akihito can speak English pretty well, though. It's sort of something that his friends know him for. He decides to help this little girl out because he's like, what's going on? Why is nobody helping her? But he starts talking to her in English. It quickly becomes obvious that this little girl is actually Charlotte, the new transfer student's little sister, whose name is Emma. Now, Emma is, at least according to Charlotte, Emma is quite the willful child. She doesn't really get attached to other people, but she is pretty attached to Akihito, meaning he's a good guy. He's a nice guy. So they start bonding. But it's also revealed that the Bennetts have moved into the apartment next door to Akihito. He lives alone. So there's a lot of time for them to, talk and get to know each other and make food for each other and, take care of the little sister while the parents are away. And it's cute, right? And you're like, well, why do they live next door? Because it's manga, bro. Of course they live next door. There are other characters outside the main three, but the biggest one is the homeroom teacher, Hanazawa Miyu. Miyu sensei likes to tease her favorite students and all that, but she's actually a pretty caring teacher when it comes down to it. However, chapter 5 of this manga is really bad. It's really stupid. All the other chapters are pretty good, and then chapter 5 is completely unnecessary because it's sort of a flashback to Charlotte being welcomed into the school when she transferred and the teacher's lounge or whatever, and Miyu sensei, who outside of this chapter is good, just starts going on a character info dump. She starts talking about Akihito and all these things, and it's we already knew this, or we didn't need to know this, or who cares, right? It's really unnecessary. She's very clearly talking to the reader here and not Charlotte, and it sort of just comes across as weird, she's sort of pushing Charlotte onto Akihito by telling her all of this. But at the same time, she also just sort of outs another teacher for no reason. There's literally no reason. Her and this other teacher are childhood friends. They work together, but it's kind of completely unnecessary, and it's sort of a strange thing to tell a random student after going on a weirdly philosophical rant about a different student. It's just a weird chapter. She outs the teacher, but also the way that the teachers are talking to each other, it's kind of the childhood friend, she gets embarrassed and tells the other teacher not to call her Miyu-chan while they're at school, and then Hanazawa sensei, the other teacher, her childhood friend teacher, is making fun of Miyu sensei for not having a boyfriend at her age, but then it's the way that they're interacting is these two are dating, or they're going to date, or they're gonna become a thing. I don't know. It's so weird the way that it's presented that I'm just like, even when I'm not reading GL, I can't escape the GL. But we didn't need the recap chapter, which is my main big issue with chapter 5. But the rest of the series is quite good. I have not read the light novels, so I don't know what all the actual content's about, but so far we get plenty of cute moments with Emma. Obviously, this is primarily a romance between Charlotte and Akihito, but the main star of the show is Emma. She's the glue that keeps everything together, and the art is quite good, so she's very cute. If Emma-sama asks you for pictures of kitties, you give Emma-sama pictures of kitties, you stupid motherfucker. You give her the damn kitties. Anyway, you do as you're told. Anyway, the art is very warm, it's very cute, and the character dynamics and relationships outside of Chapter 5 are really good. They're fun to watch, they're fun to engage with, and it's very heartwarming so far. And it's quite funny. There's a lot of comedic gag stuff going on in the background of the panels, like in Chapter 1 when Akihito and Miyu-sensei start taking like Cupid arrows whenever Emma does something very cute, and they're just dead on the floor in the background of a panel that has nothing to do with them. So, you know, it's got its moments, but it is better overall than a lot of other romance series that I read this year, but I'm not really sure where it's going. I don't think the Hachiman energy is really necessary for this kind of story. What the hell was going on with Chapter 5? But outside of that, I hope it continues on this very like wholesome, lovely path that it's on so far after one volume, because it is cute overall. So that's number 10. Number 9 is called No Gyaru in This Class by Tokita Shigure. Let me give you the rundown. The summary of the story is that Mirei is an honor student who plans on making her high school debut by completely reinventing herself. She admires how the Gyaru in the manga she reads always seem to have lots of friends and are having lots of fun. So she dyes her hair, paints her nails, does her makeup, gets fashionable and friendly, and tries to be a little bit rebellious. She forgets, however, that her high school of choice is actually a high-level college prep school of which she is the top incoming student, so there's no Gyaru in her class. However, there is a rebellious-looking boy named Yushin, who she ends up befriending. Of course, the gag of the manga is that Yushin had the same exact thought process as her, and is really just a nice, sweet-liking boy, and does well in school. They're not really rebellious, and they also meet a few other characters who are in very similar situations, although none of them know the truth about each other yet. But it doesn't really matter, because no matter how flashy they all might look and present themselves, they're really just good kids learning how to make friends. The manga itself is very cute, super cute stuff here. If you're looking for something wholesome and funny with no drama, low stakes, good characters, then you have come to the right place. My favorite characters are the homeroom teacher, Miss Saotome, who did the initial interviews for incoming students and knows exactly what the two MCs were like before their glow up. She can clearly see that their piercings are fake and that they don't even break the school rules when they're changing their image with like how they wear their uniforms or anything like that. She finds it super cute. She's always bursting out laughing whenever she sees them in certain situations, because she, Miss Saotome herself, is now currently a plain black-haired, glasses-wearing teacher, but she herself was actually a real rebellious teen who was in a biker gang for most of her youth. So she sees all this going on and she just finds it super funny and super cute. There's also a character named Subaru who looks like this sort of gothic Lolita landmine girl type, but she is actually a like Tekken martial artist fighting bears in the mountains, eating Dragon Ball One Piece shonen style like mutton chop meat, and breaking Usain Bolt type records. Like, she is throwing bowling balls completely horizontally. She doesn't really talk. She communicates with minor movements and a constantly blank face, and she's quite awesome. I love her to bits. She's my favorite character in the manga. And you can tell that this is sort of a gag comedy manga, but it's also just sort of a sweet, wholesome, romantic comedy type affair, I guess. No affairs, no NTR, just cute, just gag. And the author, Tokita Shigure, also created Rental Girlfriend Tsukita-san and Don't Blush Sekime-san, which you've probably heard of and are both very cute, and I can recommend both of those very, very, very easily. They were both well-received romances in their own right. I actually love Tokita Sensei's character art. It is so expressive, especially in this manga and especially in Sekime-san, but in this manga specifically, I especially love when the sort of metaphorical camera zooms out and the characters get these somewhat deformed proportions for their arms and legs. It's like a chibi-inspired look, but it's not chibi. They're just a little bit deformed with like chunky legs and arms, and it's so cute. I put some examples on the screen here. There's just something about this style that I really like, that I think is really, really charming. And as I said before, the expressions are super expressive, which is good because they're called expressions, right? Number 8. 9, 8. Number 8. I do my threes like this. Number 8 is a manga called Pan wo Naoruna, or Don't Underestimate Bread Making in English, by Sadamatsu Ryuichi. And this manga is about Muyu Uchiki, who is a 19-year-old girl. She's a NEET. She works from her room as a freelance graphic designer for her aunt and uncle's bakery. Essentially, she created the mascot, she created the menus and the designs and everything. And she's been a shut-in, a complete shut-in, a NEET for 2 years. But her aunt gives her a call one day about getting a job at their bakery in person. She asks for help because she's pregnant, her uncle injures himself, she's got to take over as the new manager and everything. So there's a whole lot going on. But because she's a NEET, she's super socially awkward, anxious, super not confident in her abilities whatsoever. She dropped out of school, or, you know, she doesn't have a job or anything like that, a real one outside of the graphic design stuff. So she's not used to interacting with people. And so the major premise of the story is her learning how to work at the bakery, get along with the other employees, and learn about sort of customer service and reintegrate into the real world. And it is so fun, so funny, so charming. The characters are super interesting, and it's just sort of fun to watch go through all of these different gags and everything. So if you're looking for a comedy manga with a little bit of bochi sauce mixed in, I highly recommend this. This is not about the manga itself, but it is about the author, Sadamatsu Ryuichi, that I think is very, very funny. All of Ryuichi Sensei's manga, his freelance work, his actual manga, his contract stuff, all of it before this manga is all mech. Like, it is all mecha, designing mechanical humanoid things for mecha shows, for his own mecha manga that he wrote before this for like 10-15 years. It is so funny that this is what they transitioned into. But it's also quite good. Ryuichi Sensei has some great comedic talent here, and I think the manga is worth checking out if you are interested in comedy slice of life. But if that's not really your speed, you'll probably like this next one. Number 7. Number 7 is Suna no Umi no Ifrit, or The Sea of Sand and Ifrit, by Hidaka Tatsuya. The summary of the story is 1,000 years have passed since the world was covered in sand. The ancient civilizations that ruled the world with advanced technology, scientific advancements, and mechanical ingenuity are no more, replaced by small settlements of scavengers trying to find any water they can to survive, roaming bandits, bounty hunters, and the criminals that they chase, and dust-covered artifacts lost to time in the seas of sand, which are home also to giant water-hoarding monsters called aqua gorgers. Not the most hospitable world to live in, but the one that our protagonist, Noah, does live in. And Noah lives in what is essentially the lawless Outer Rim type place of this sandland-ass world, which is a place called the Remote Seas. There's like northwest, east seas, but then there's also the remote seas sort of removed from them, which is where the story starts. Noah always has a smile on his face, cracking jokes, monologuing to himself when he finds an ancient gravure book while he's out scavenging for his clan, and his antics are interrupted, however, when he sees a strange girl being chased by a massive aqua gorger and headed right towards him. He distracts the gorger by throwing his canteen away from them, and together they make it out unscathed, or nearly unscathed, because upon touching this girl's skin, Noah finds himself getting burned. So, there's something else going on here. This girl is the other main character, named Yuri. I can never escape. She's clearly new to this part of the desert, and he's not used to seeing girls his age, so he offers to guide her in her search for some kind of relic, but rather than money or treasure, he asks for a date with her as a reward. She obviously says no, and they part ways, but then we find out the truth about Noah. His entire act is fake. His smile is fake and honestly kind of creepy in some panels. He's a huge coward, the whole shebang, but we also learn why. Noah is part of a pacifist tribe called the Sand Rats, but the reason that they're pacifists is because they are all old as dirt. And there are no adults, no teenagers, no kids, just a bunch of elderly people anticipating their slowly approaching inevitable deaths in this arid wasteland, and also Noah. And because of this, Noah learned as a kid to put on this awkward smile, to make jokes and keep the old folks entertained, because when he's smiling, they're smiling. And that's basically the only thing he can do for them as they wait out their inevitable doom. He even admits to Yuri later on in chapter 1 that his whole thing is just an act to keep a brave face in front of the old folks who he considers his family. I mean, he even calls himself Marry Noah to drive the whole point home. Back home, he asks the chief of the tribe if she's ever heard of somebody who burns to the touch, and the chief tells him of the legend of the ancient fire god who saved people from the aqua gorgers, and if somebody like that were to actually exist, they would probably be the reincarnation of the fire god. More than that, though, if they really did exist, the fire god's power was sent to burn their own body as well as the body of anybody who comes into contact with them. So if somebody like that really existed, they'd probably have led a very tragic, very lonely life, sort of separated from everyone else. And upon hearing this, Noah makes up his mind to go help Yuri, who indeed has been ostracized and criminalized her entire life. She was labeled a child of calamity, she's had a bounty placed on her head, and she's been on the run for the last 8 years as a wanted criminal simply for existing. Together, as they reunite, their adventure into the great sand seas begin. Now that the summary's over, I think it's fair to say that I really, really enjoyed this manga. The characters are really fun. Even the quote-unquote bad guys, like the bandits we meet, or the bounty hunters that chase Yuri all the time, they all have their quirks, their funny moments. And the world itself is super interesting with all this mechanical gear being utilized and just sort of laying around in ruins. And I really like the art as well. The author really understands how to make action and movement very dynamic. There's some great action scenes throughout this, and just great posing and character designs in general, and the art of the world above that is even more phenomenal, like the art of the repurposed mechanical ships that have been turned into towns, or used for other purposes. The monsters look great, the environments, like the Great Sandfall Gap, which is sort of like the edge of the world where the remote seas meet the rest of the world. But instead of water flowing off the side, it's these huge sand falls. Even the equipment that they use and Noah's creepy-ass smile, it all looks great. I really like the art. Beyond that, though, Ifrit really evokes this 2000s era action-adventure, world-spanning journey type shonen story, and it does it quite well. There's a lot of potential here for something that could go that extra mile into something long-running and loved. That being said, however, that result does not seem to be the case for Suna no Umi no Ifrit. According to several websites, this manga has been completed with 3 volumes in Japan. Only 6 chapters have been translated into English so far, which is the first volume, which is comprised of 3 quite long chapters, and about half of volume 2, which has more chapters, but shorter. It doesn't seem like people read this over in Japan. I've certainly never seen anybody talking about it in the rest of the world, and I might very well be the only American to have read this stupid thing, which is a massive shame, because I really like it. It truly feels like a shonen series that might have come out anywhere between 1998 and 2008. It's the type of series that before like 2020, if you weren't into anime or manga, but you had a friend that was, and you asked them what you should get into, they'd of course say like the big 3 plus Dragon Ball plus like Oran or something like that. But aside from those, you'd get stuff like Shaman King, Ueki, Zatch Bell type beat. You know what I'm saying? This feels like one of those, like really early fairy tale, early Magi type of vibes, which I think we don't have a whole lot these days. And when we do get it, it's either 14 or 23 chapters until the big SJ in the sky lets the axe loose, which is a shame. Honestly, the whole context of it all kind of reminds me of a series called Barrage, which was one of Horikoshi's works before he was Horikoshi. Before he started My Hero Academia, there was Barrage, and I remember reading that as a kid. I actually have it over here. I actually have a copy of Barrage right here. This is volume 2. Look at it. Look at it. So cute. So cool. So cool. That series was a fantasy adventure shonen series with good art and an interesting premise. That also only lasted 3 volumes before it got canceled. So, sounds familiar. I'm not going to say it's as good as any of the series that I mentioned, but I do think it has the potential to be something more than what it is. And I also think that it's worth noting that Hidaka Tatsuya, the creator of this manga, of Ifrit, was at one point an assistant to Sakamoto Kenshiro, who did the fairy tale spin-off Happy's Great Adventure, and also is the creator, the mangaka of Buster Kill, which is exactly the type of manga that I think this sort of evokes, which makes a lot of sense. Hopefully we get to see more like this from Tatsuya-sensei, because I like this, and I will be reading what's left of it if it manages to get translated in the coming months. Number 6 is Tonari no Kurokawa-san by Ito Kyosuke. Takahashi Hajime decides to enroll in Shubi High School, this big, higher class prep school, for one reason and one reason only. Shubi High School is the school that the setting of his favorite rom-com manga, Love Mauve, and not Muv-Love, Love Mauve, is based on. While doing a tour of the school to see all of his favorite scene locations from the manga, something he arrived 2 hours before the entrance ceremony to do, by the way, he opens the door to a room with the main heroine, Aoi-tan, vivid in his imagination. Except there's actually a girl in this room, and she kind of looks like Aoi-tan. This girl's name is Kurokawa Yayoi, and she has no idea what he's even talking about. She's a pretty sheltered girl, rich, wealthy, and everybody has high expectations of her that she can't betray. Basically, she doesn't have any agency in her own life, and other people are always making decisions for her. But she obviously does not like that. Takahashi-kun introduces her to manga, specifically Love Mauve, something she was forbidden to read, and together they sort of share this secret that begins in the resource room that started it all, both in the in-universe manga, but also in the Our Universe manga. This manga is awesome. It's super cute, genuinely funny, has great characters that you actually want to see in a romantic comedy story like this, which is not something I can say about a lot of romances that I've read that have come out in the last, my lifetime. So, there you go. The art is actually so freaking good. The author has such a great style, thick lines, super expressive faces. Genuinely, some of the best facial expressions you've ever seen are in this manga. There's so much charm and personality in the art style itself and in the characters themselves that it really bleeds off the page and into my heart and my eyeballs, my heart balls, if you will. No, I don't like that. Ignore that. Cut it. Editor, cut it. You could pick any random face from each of the main characters and have the funniest matching couples profile pics of all time, I swear to God. And the content itself is pretty good. It's cliche, it feels like something that would have come out in a completely different era of rom-coms, and it doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel by any means, but the author manages to take those bones, those well-worn, seen a million times bones, and put just enough fresh seasoning on them to be gnawable anew, so to speak, to make a series that I just keep coming back to. I keep rereading it as I wait for new chapters to come out. Kind of feels like something Eiji Masuda might have done early on in his career, with slightly less supernatural elements so far. Kind of, is unclear. It does kind of have a supernatural vibe in the early chapters, but not really, but kind of, but not really. But I like that, and I really like this. Number 5. Hanaichi Fudo is an ordinary 23, 24-year-old office worker living in a mundane life. But when he was a kid, Fudo was an award-winning artist, primarily known for his beautiful watercolor paintings. He had to give up art, though, when his parents died young, taking on lots of jobs way too young so he could support himself and his younger sister. That being said, he can't help but doodle at work while he's thinking, or he's spacing out, or he's trying to maintain this image of being the perfect cog in the wheel, as he puts it. His senpai at work is an incredibly capable woman named Saori Wakaba. But she collapses one day, and while helping her out, he realizes that she is actually a secret artist of her own, an amateur hobbyist mangaka to be exact. And she had stayed up too late working on a manuscript only to pass out when she saw how bad the inking had come out on her printed copies, which she printed at work because she doesn't have an industrial printer at home. But the bigger shock, though, is that she's actually not only seen his doodles, but she wants him to be her assistant and work on manga together with her. Later on, he finds out that although Wakaba was bullied about wanting to draw manga when she was a kid, she actually was inspired by seeing his little desk doodles at work and decided to try again, to pick up art again as an adult. Now, between Wakaba's endearing storytelling and Fudo's exceptional art, it's up to the two of them to try and break into the manga world against the grain of their mundane adult lives. The faces in this manga are phenomenal again. I love the characters, they're super fun, super expressive, and the dynamic between them is actually quite nice to see, as they sort of mutually inspired and supported each other even before they started making manga together, and continue to do so now that they're actually sort of building some kind of rapport and working and personal relationships. It's really nice to see. Speaking of the art, you've probably seen some of the mangaka's Twitter art back in the day, specifically this one Blue Archive comic. I guarantee you've seen this. If you've followed any artist on Twitter, you've probably seen this back in the day. But speaking of this manga, Monochrome Days, the first 2 pages of this manga, not to spoil it, are the FMC vomiting for comedy. But it does also have slightly darker undertones, but also this much more hopeful, fun, dare I say romantic vibe to it. At its core, this manga is about rediscovering lost passions, forming new connections, and chasing big, big dreams, all with a sort of manga industry flair to it, and I like it a lot. Big fan of the art. If you followed me for a long time, you probably know that I'm a sucker, a simp even, for big, thickum line work. So yeah, I'm enjoying Monochrome Days so far. Go check it out. Number 4 is called Have a Great Trip After the Credits Roll by Rikitake. Once upon a time, 2 people fought the Demon King and won. There was Aino, the hero, a talented warrior and the paragon of hope for the world who can't help but help those in need with a smile, and Iro, a mage, and Aino's adventuring partner, and the one who actually dealt the killing blow to the Demon King. Now that the Demon King is dead, it's finally time to put their greatest plans into action. Fulfill all the things in the journal they kept while working hard to save the world, entitled Things to Do After Defeating the Demon King Together. Now they are traveling the world, acting like tourists, looking for good views, good eats, and good experiences. But there's just one problem. The truth is that Aino, the hero, was killed during the battle against the Demon King. Iro delivered the final blow because she was the only one still alive to do so. And in the aftermath, she used a hastily constructed resurrection spell to bring Aino back to life. But there were some complications. To do a never-before-successful resurrection spell that nobody can do in the aftermath of the greatest battle in history, physically exhausted and mentally anguished in the wake of tragedy and triumph, was really no state to be casting unique magic, and Aino comes back to life in a smaller body with an unknown time limit on her now shortened life and stature. Now, this manga is only 2 chapters so far, at least translated into English, but they're 2 really good chapters. The art is evocative, phenomenal. I love the character designs. I love the story that they're telling so far. There's so much charm and wit and personality going on in here that it is just hard to put down. I reread these first 2 chapters like 3 times while I was making the script and preparing the script. It's just so so evocative, I guess is the word that I would use. The environments are beautiful, the characters are well designed. It has this sort of Finnish-inspired lore, which you could probably tell from the names of the protagonists. And it's got a very interesting world. It's got great character interactions so far, and the premise itself is already incredibly interesting, with Iro specifically struggling to come to terms with the limited time that she has with Aino, and so she's trying to put her best feet forward as they're trying to live this sort of wholesome life, but there's also a time limit and this huge sense of dread. It's like playing an old Atelier game, except the consequence is that the best friend, love of your life, just fucking dies, and you can't do anything about it. I'm really interested to see where this manga goes. I'm really enjoying everything that's been presented to me so far, and even after 2 chapters, I do like it more than some of the manga that I put lower on this list. So it's just got a lot of gravity to it that really just sort of pulled me in, and I really enjoy it. So I'm really looking forward to reading more in 2025. Number 3 is called Koroshi Korosare Sankaku Kanke ni Watashi ga ima kara hairun desu ka? Or Am I About to Join a Kill or Be Killed Love Triangle by Suzuki Fumie. This is a story about several characters. The main character is a girl named Kohaku, or as I like to call her, Green Bochi, or in some cases, Tall Green Bochi. She is this socially anxious girl who was not bullied when she was younger, but excluded. She doesn't really have a presence. She was always teaming up with the teachers, and she's super socially anxious. And so she decides to go to a brand new school for high school. She's coming in as a freshman into high school, and she decides, based on a pamphlet that she's seen, to go to a school called Freedom Academy. And she decides to go here because it says accepting all kinds. She's excited because she thinks that, the people that go here might be really accepting and diverse, and she might be able to make some friends. She gets in, she's the top student, at least in terms of academics, but she misses the entrance ceremony, her new student representation speech, and actually the entire first month of school, and so does not get to meet any friends because she is so anxious that she isn't paying attention, and she slips and falls and breaks her leg in her own home as she's coming down the stairs on the first day of school. So she misses an entire month. By the time she gets back, everybody's got friends, but she makes one very important observation. She notices that all the other groups in her class are groups of 4. They've made friends of groups of 4, but there's one group of 3, and so she says, I think I can join this group of 3 and even everything out. It's going to be natural, it's going to be nice, it's going to be fun, I'm going to make some friends. She walks over to these group of 3, who other people are actually avoiding. Maybe they're big stars or something. Maybe they're famous in the class or something. It's not quite clear. But she walks over there, and immediately one of the girls stabs one of the other girls in the chest with a stake, and now we've got a supernatural romantic comedy on our hands. Here's the rundown. Kohaku, Green Bochi, main character. Then there's Kirara, who's this tall, I think she's 192 centimeters, which is 12 centimeters taller than I am. But she is a vampire, and she wants to sort of die without regrets. Then we have Emma, the exorcist, who is trying to kill Kirara, but we later find out that Kirara has actually lived with Emma's family for 30 years, meaning that she's lived with Emma, meaning that Emma's actually trying to do a good thing by killing Kirara and fulfilling her wishes. It's not like she's not trying to actually murder her or anything. She's just trying to put her out of her misery, I guess. I don't know. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And then, finally, we have Aiko, who is a human, is sort of smitten with Kirara. Aiko is fun because Kohaku thinks she's an orc at first, just because she's got a lot of personality going on. Even after the first chapter, it becomes clear that it's less Kohaku getting involved with a complicated love triangle, and more Kohaku unwittingly becoming the center and main interest of a not actually all that complicated love. Square. This is a square. Where everyone is just sort of in love with the tall, green, socially awkward menace. Fumie Sensei's art, specifically her character art, is insanely good. Lots of great faces, lots of great emotions, positive, negative, heartwarming, darker, fun, violent, whatever you want, it's all here. She does really dynamic poses, really great movement in these panels, composition's great, and the characters are super fun. It all comes together into one cohesive package that I am really enjoying so far. The writing is super funny, but also very heartwarming and very heart-wrenching in some moments. And also there's a Ashita no Jo meme, or as I call it, Kohaku no Jo meme, which I'll put on the screen. But it's got a lot going for it. Not too many chapters out yet. Again, most of these manga only have one volume out. I'm really excited to see where this one goes because it is one of my favorite manga. Yeah, it's my third favorite manga to come out this year, or to come out last year. So go check it out. It's super fun. I don't want to spoil too much of the story or the character interactions or anything, but you can kind of guess where it's going and what's going on. Even if I did spoil it for you, it wouldn't really matter because you want to be there for the journey. It's really good. Now, number 2 is a manga called Yearning for a Night Full of You by Rei. That's R-E-Y. One word. The main premise is this. There is this sort of wealthy, high-class school called St. Rory's Girls Academy, which is sort of, a wealthy private school. Nobility go there. I say nobility, but like politicians' kids, corporate heiresses, and all this kind of stuff. The wealthy, the rich, the famous, their children go to St. Rory's Girls Academy. In the same prefecture, the public school is called Aijiro Prefectural High School, and this school is known for attracting lots of delinquents. There's rumors about the school, but these are just basically more normal people. However, this spring, the start of this new school year in Japan, these schools have been combined into one school, which means that there's now the Rory class, the sort of wealthy girls who wear the white uniforms, and then the I class, short for Aijiro, which is sort of the normal kids, the delinquents, all that kind of stuff. And they have sort of darker uniforms. And so they are Romeo and Juliet style split, like The Flower Blooms Within You or whatever that manga's called. It's like that, but instead of the schools being next to each other, they're the same school. So we have this sort of star-crossed kind of classist butting of heads going on here. Now, we have the main character. She's a third year from Aijiro Prefectural High School, part of the I class. She's a delinquent. Her name is Nanase Mitsuki, and she sleeps during the day. She's tired, she's tall, she's got a scary looking face, she's got piercings, she rides her motorcycle to school and to home, and there's a lot of rumors about her, like the police got called on her or whatever. She's the subject of a lot of rumors. She's sort of ostracized, especially from the Rory class, but she's like tall and scary, and people try to avoid her. One day while she's on her way home from school, she sees a girl being harassed by some dudes in the park nearby. So she rides up on her motorcycle and goes, "Hey, we got a problem here," and she sort of saves this girl. And they exchange some words there. She kind of runs away, blah blah, picks up her phone, brings it to her. Basically, she brings this girl to a place, to a cafe. This is the cafe that Mitsuki not only works at but lives at. It's her grandma's cafe. It's a nighttime cafe. It's open from like 8 p.m. to like 4 a.m. or something like that. But basically it's only open at night. And the reason that Mitsuki looks super like scary and mean during the day is because she's just working here all night. But she comes in and she introduces this girl and lets her calm down and everything, and they sort of have a nice heart to heart, and they get along and everything. Next day she goes to school. Mitsuki's trying to take a nap in between classes or whatever, and she's approached by the girl that she saved the night before and brought to the cafe. And it turns out that this girl is actually a member of the Rory class. She's a first year named Hosho Yuka, and she is special even among the elite. She's like the daughter of a big conglomerate CEO or something like that. But to the point where even the other girls in the Rory class are always like trying to acquiesce to her, or trying to, make sure that nothing happens to her, because they look up to her and they respect her, and they put her on a pedestal even amongst themselves. So like she's like nobility of nobility type shit. So now we've got a Romeo and Juliet story on our hands. There's also a character introduced later on called Kurisu Amane, who is third year. She's a member of the Rory class. She's the student council president, and she's actually in the same class as Mitsuki, and she's known Yuka since childhood. She's worried about the relationship between Mitsuki and Yuka, but, and she says some things that she later comes to regret, because she doesn't actually think that the classes should be separated either. She thinks it's kind of dumb and stupid, but you know, she is the student council president and she's pretty strict, but she gets to know Mitsuki because she's in the same class and she's trying to figure out what the relationship between these other two is, and you know, she's starting to understand it and she's maybe even starting to get some feelings for Mitsuki, which is where we're at in the manga right now. I won't spoil too much about the specifics, but I just need you to know that I love this manga. This is my number 2 manga of the year. It would be my number 1 if the number 1 wasn't the number 1. Shout out Sciencey Girl for putting out this manga as quickly as she did. The swiftness with which the first 9 chapters got translated, because they were all out in Japanese, and then Sciencey Girl was putting out chapter after chapter after chapter, and I would reread, say chapter 4 just come out, I would reread chapters 1, 2, 3, 4. Chapter 5's out by the time I'm done, and then I would reread 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 9 hours later, chapter 6 is out. It was crazy. So shout out the translators for feeding my addiction with this one, because I could not wait to read this. I have reread this manga. Every time a new chapter comes out, I reread the whole thing. Sometimes I just think of this manga and I'll just go and reread the whole thing. Right now, I think there's 12 chapters out. It is so good, so addicting. I love the art, I love the characters. Yes, the story is sort of cliche, but I'm having a great time with it. There's just something about it that has really addictive quality to it that I'm like, yes, feed me more. I need more of this. It's so good. I love the interactions between the characters. I love the sort of premise, and the setting is traditional. It's cliche, it's a little tropey, but there's a reason why those things are tropes, right? They become solidified and codified into something that anybody can read and anybody can recognize, and this manga just takes that and just makes it interesting and makes it fun to read, makes it really, really addicting. This is my number 2 manga of the year. I know some people won't like it, or won't rate it as, they'll like it, but they won't rate it as highly. But this manga, super addicted to this. The biggest complaint that I've seen people make about this manga is the way the artist draws the ears. And that's not even a complaint for me. And you know, if that's the complaint that people are making, then what are we even doing? You know it's good if they're trying to make some shit up like this. Because like, what? It's clearly the style that the mangaka is working with, and not like a failure of their artistic abilities. It's clearly just like the style. So I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I love the characters, specifically the art and their interactions with each other are so fun to read. It's so charming. It has a ton of personality, even though it's, you know, maybe not reinventing the wheel in any way. And I love when they show off the desserts at the cafe, they actually, or like the food at the cafe or the drinks at the cafe, they actually tend to do something which I think is very interesting. They actually color the drink or the food or something, and it has this like really nicely rendered coloring on it. And then it's placed in the black and white context of the manga. So it's like the only thing that's colored on the page. And it works so well because they don't use it that often. I think they only use it 2 or 3 times in those 12 chapters, which means it doesn't get old when you see something beautiful. Like, I did not expect it when reading chapter 1, and it looks great, just as like a little aside about the art. But yeah, go read this. It's so good. It's so good. I'm so addicted to this. I've read it so many times just as it is. And I will continue to be doing so with every new chapter that comes out. So go check out Yearning for a Night Full of You by Ray. And now it's time, drumroll please, hold on. Can you hear this? Probably not. Hold on, can I get closer to the mic? Drum roll, please. I'm not gonna do it on my keyboard. It's a brand new keyboard. Anyways, my number 1 manga of 2024 is a series called Girl Meets Rock, or Futsuno Keonbu, which translates to Ordinary Light Music Club, which I do think is a better title given the context of the series. But Girl Meets Rock is fine too, and that's what we'll be referring to it as. It is a manga written by Kuwahali with art by Hideichi Tetsuo. Now, this manga is my favorite manga this year, in the past year. And there's actually so much of it. There's 5 collected volumes, 52 chapters total, with the 52nd chapter actually releasing the day that I'm recording this. It came out this morning and I read it. So it was good. It was good. This manga, whereas all of the other manga I've talked about have 1 volume, either translated or total so far, this one has 5 because it started in January of 2024. And it is so good. It's one of my favorite manga, not just of 2024, but period. One of the best manga that I've read in the last 5 years, at the very least. It is quite good. And now, let me tell you what it's about. First year high school student called Chihiro Hatono, or Hatochi as she later becomes known, buys her very first electric guitar and decides to join the light music club as she sort of comes into high school. She sort of is new to the guitar. Her dad played it when she was a kid, but she doesn't really know exactly how to do everything. And she just sort of resigns her fate to being a guitarist. And the way that the light music club works is in this school particularly is that there's a lot of people in it. So there's a lot of people to form bands, you know, with 3 members, 2 members, 4 members, 5 members, whatever. So she ends up in a just sort of haphazardly thrown together band with sort of the people that are left. It's her, 2 boys, and a girl named Rin. All of them are first years, and this band, spoiler alert, does not last very long because the only people taking it seriously are Hatochi and Rin, whereas the 2 boys are just kind of like not super into it. As time goes on, Rin is sort of manipulating things behind the scenes. She is sort of the darker, and she's the master manipulator of the series for sure. She knows what she's doing, and Yasu sort of develops a crush on Rin, and Rin is like, no, rejects him so mercilessly that he quits the club. And this is all done on purpose because Rin has ideas. She doesn't just do this out of nowhere. The reason that Rin sort of orchestrates this is because one day, when everybody was gone after club, she walked into a room and heard Hatochi, the main character, singing to herself because she thought everybody else was gone. And in this moment, Rin decides to make Hatochi her new god. She decides to make a serious band centered around Hatono. Hatono doesn't think she's a very good singer. And the reason for this is because she has a very unique voice. The way that it's presented is that maybe it's a little husky, maybe it's a little deep. Basically, she has sort of a very unique, non-standard, non-traditional rocker alts type voice, just sort of naturally. And Rin hears her singing and is just completely blown away and decides to make Hatochi her god. But that's her world, her religion. But that's a whole separate character analysis thing that we could do. We're moving on. Now that the boys are out of the band, they don't have a band, so they need to get a real band together. First target is a girl named Momo. Momo becomes friends with Hatochi on the very first day of school because they're in the same class. They sit next to each other, and Momo is very nice and you know, tries to socialize with everybody. They become friends, and Momo's also in the light music club. Her band breaks up because one of the members is dating a member of a different band in the first year's section, a boy named Tamaki. Tamaki sucks. He's very, very good at guitar. He's a very, very good musician. He's not a very nice person. He's real shitty. But he breaks up with her at the behest of a girl named Ayame, who is in the same band as Tamaki. Keep these names in mind, right? So Momo's band's breaking up, and her friend who just got broken up with is deciding she's trying to quit the band, she's trying to quit the whole club, she's trying to quit everything. And Momo is like blown away. She's like, what do these 2 things have to do with each other? Why does Tamaki being an asshole require you to stop being in the band with us? Like, what do these things have to do with each other? And it sort of breaks up the band. And because Momo is canonically aromantic, asexual, so she doesn't have anything to do with love. She doesn't really get it. And her band ends up breaking up with a little help from Rin, who again is like stirring things up, both behind the scenes, but also just very blatantly in front of everybody. And so she's like, Momo, come join our band. And Momo's like, why? I don't want to, what is going on here? Did you do this on purpose and all this stuff? And Momo is like, she likes Hatochi. She's a little on the fence about Rin right now, but she's like, I don't know if I want to start a new band. And Rin is like, you have to hear Hatochi sing. Let's all go to karaoke. So go to karaoke, and she hears her sing, and she's like, you're right. I need to join this band. This is super serious. We got to be the best band in the world because Hatochi's voice is so cool, and there's so much potential here. So she joins the band. Now, the 3 of them, Rin specifically, also manipulates Ayame, who I mentioned earlier, who is now dating Tamaki and everything. They're in the same band. Now, Ayame is like, she's got the coolest haircut of all time. She's got like a wolf cut with straight bangs. She looks awesome. She's blunt. She's serious. but she's kind of not sure where to put her efforts in. She's struggling in school. She's not taking the light music club that seriously. And then Rin sort of manipulates the situation to where like they break up and she's kicked out of the band because Tamaki sucks, right? He's like, why would you be in the band? Whatever. She gets him out of the band and she's planning to like drop out of school and do all this stuff. Rin manipulates the situation again because Momo and Ayame, although they're kind of at odds now because the whole third-party friend thing, they actually went to elementary school together and they know each other, and Ayame actually really likes Momo. Basically, the same thing happens again where Rin is like, you have to hear Hatachi sing, come join our band, and Hatachi is like defending Ayame, who is kind of like a villain in this scenario, but she's defending from Tamaki because she's just so pissed. She hates Tamaki so much. She just, anytime he opens his mouth, she just gets annoyed and goes off on him, and it's wonderful. It's amazing. But basically, the band comes together and they start this band called Heartbreak. Primary story is sort of Heartbreak becoming better, all the members becoming closer, becoming better, becoming just chasing their dream of being like this really, really good band with a bunch of devoted members. And that was a long summary, but that's kind of skipping over a lot because that's actually like the first several volumes. Like there's a whole arc before the band even comes together. The story is so good, the characters are so good, the writing is so good, the art is so good in the sense that it is so unique, and I really, really like it. Like it's not doing anything intense with the line work, and the character designs are unique, right? That's the biggest thing I can say about it, is the characters look unique, but it has so much emotion that comes through in the characters' expressions, in the environments, in juxtaposed against like the actual content of the story and the writing, and it is so good. I love the characters. Hatachi is so good. She's a great MC. Ayame is so good, so fun. Rin is so fun. Momo might be one of my most akin Momo, honestly. She's one of the most relatable characters in manga for me personally, based on my experiences and who I am. You know, she's canon, arrow ace, non-canon, a little autistic. Like you don't just make those statues of animals of weirdo. And anyway, if you've read the manga, you know what I'm talking about. This is not Girl Meets Rock summary episode, but it is Girl Meets Rock propaganda episode. Go read this manga. Okay, so I just realized I was saying the guy's name wrong. His name is Takami. He's the asshole. Tamaki is the senpai who I really, really enjoy. She's a third year that sort of Hatano looks up to. And she is canonically a lesbian, which is important to her story, but not the story overall so far. The characters they're just real. They're just so real feeling people. They're just so fun to interact with. They're so fun to see interact with each other. The whole thing is this like amalgamation of like charm and personality, and it is this sort of tale of youth and passion and struggle and just effort chasing your dreams once again kind of like Monochrome Days was, but it is more that like adolescent journey rather than sort of adult journey, and it's so good. One of the taglines for the manga is like a high octane drama of unfiltered youth and musical ambition, and I think that's really good, specifically the unfiltered youth part. Like it is so fun. It's really has that like coming of age, like trying to find your place, but at the same time putting all this effort toward something that you enjoy, right? Like this music and this everything. And Hatano is such a great main character. I actually like all of the characters in this manga, even the ones like Takami who are shitty, but like they're shitty because they need to be shitty. The antagonists, quote unquote, because it's like they just feel real. Like, you know, a guy like Takami, you love to see him on the page because you know that's your moment to hate, you know, like it feels so good to be like, oh, this asshole again, oh, what's he gonna do next? You know, like the characters are real, or they feel real. Their interactions with each other are so good. Girl Meets Rock is one of my favorite series, not just of 2024, but ever in the last 5 years at the very least, but like ever. Like I cannot stop reading this manga. I've reread it like 3 or 4 times all the way through. I reread it twice while I was thinking about this video, and again while I was writing my list together and everything. So it's just so good. And with every read, I'm discovering more and more hints and things about what's going on. It's just something that you can keep coming back to and still feel the exact same way. And you get to, it actually talks about like real music in the manga, so like you can listen to something like Jingneng Boys or El Garden or something like that. If you know Japanese music, you can just turn it on and listen to it while you read, and it's an extensive experience. It really is like trying to capture what it means to be like to not just be human, but to be like a musician and an artist and everything, but also like navigating all these like relationships and differing ambitions and passions, and trying to get people to come together to make something bigger than themselves, but also like chasing this dream and this ambition, but also their first years in high school, you know? And it has like this very realistic feel to it. It's just quite good. I'm looking at it right now on my on this monitor right here. I got two monitors here. This isn't my desk. This is just a table with a sheet on it, with a camera. That's my phone. With a camera arm on it. My actual desk is over there, and I have on it right now Girl Meets Rock. I'm reading it right now, and I think Momo is one of my favorite characters in terms of relatability. Ayame is also very relatable to me. Honestly, the whole cast is just super relatable, even the ones that you are like, man, I really wish I didn't relate to this, but you relate to it. It's so good. I just love the characters. I love the story. The writing is great. The art is great. The character designs are great. The environments are great. The expressions are great. The whole package is just great. It's just phenomenal. I highly recommend you read this if you want something that's a little bit more unique and a little bit more, how do I put this? It's so good. It's just I don't know. It genuinely is unreserved youth and musical struggle, and I think that's what I really, really, really love about it. It is so good. This story actually started, Kuahali started this as sort of a Twitter webcomic in, I think, 2022, and their art is garbage in the same way that One's art is garbage. Like, it's super charming, and you can tell that there's something gravitational about it, and it's clear that that's the reason why it got turned into a real manga. But it is so good. Tetsuo Idouchi has just such a fun art style that I just can't get enough of looking at. I really like Tetsuo's other series that they did before this, which is like Girls at the Ballpark or something like that, which is a baseball themed GL, which I think is very funny, but that's also quite fun to read. But this is just so good, right? Like, it is, I'm running out of vocabulary. I just love this manga so much. Speaking of Tetsuo Idouchi, you should go check out their Twitter, but also their alternate Twitter, which is just they only post high quality, like framed, posed pictures of their chickens and doing cute things with their chickens, which I think is so funny. So go check that out. But before that, more than that, go check out An Ordinary Light Music Club, or Girl Meets Rock, or Futsu no Keonbu, or whatever you want to call it. Go read it right now. Go read it again. Like, you should go read this manga, and then you should read it again, and then you should read it a third time, and then you can get back to me and we can talk about it, okay? Because I need to talk about this manga with somebody. Nobody I know reads manga, and nobody I know has read this manga. So I think just go read this manga, go read this manga, go read this manga. It is so good. Highly recommend. #1 manga of 2024 is Girl Meets Rock by Kuahali and Ideuchi Tetsuo. Best manga that came out last year. Best manga that came out in a lot of years, in my opinion. And, of course, before we get out of here, I would not be me if I didn't at least mention all of the good GL that started this year, or this past year, 2024. So here is all of the GL I recommend that started in 2024, minus the couple that we talked about already in the best manga list that we just finished with. I mean, 4 of my top 4 had GL in them, even if it wasn't the main focus. So you already know my preferences by now. Let's get into it. I'm just going to list them all, okay? Girlfriend, limited to 7 days by Amazaki Suika. My Girlfriend is Devilishly Sweet by Yatsusaki Haru. I Want to Touch You, Then Love Begins by Kumako, Gyaru Maid and Villainess by Kageyana, Howling Song for Husky Girl by Kashikaze, the creator of I Cannot Say No to the Lonely Girl or I Can't Defy the Lonely Girl, Canary's Dream of Shining Stars by Sheep D, I Want to Make the Black Knight Fall in Love with Me by Suo and Sometime, Role of the Femme Fatale by Sasuke, Love and Dreams Don't Mix by Tori Shidoku, Sugar Girl Drip by Ao Tsukinoa, who did that one biting fetish manga that was actually pretty solid. I Want to Be Liked by That Shy Girl by Chibalaki. Be Happy in the Real World Too, Okay? By Shibori Kasuko. Let's Hang Out When the Black Plague Is Over by Hoi Hoi. Helpless Saint and the Powerless Princess by Tamasaki Tama, the author of A Love Letter for the Marching Puppy, which I also recommend and is highly touted by the GL community. Make Me Eat, Make Me Happy by Hokuto Sui, specifically if you're also into food. The Superstar Idol Crushes on Me Today Too by Okami, both the pre-serialized and serialized versions. Go read them both. The Death-Defying Princess Creates a Yuri Harem to Survive by Akashiro Aoi, Koji Moromi, Yanai Nobuhiko, and Murata Shinya, which, if you don't know any of those names, you're probably a better, more well-adjusted person than I am. How I Lose Bets with My Sadistic Gifted Childhood Friend and She Steals All of My Firsts by Inukai Anzu, Konata Eru, and Navy. My Yuri Started with Slavery by Desuyama Hanako and Mimoto, the artist who did What If Famous Paintings Were Lesbians? That's not what it's called, but that's the premise of their other manga. The long-awaited manga adaptation of Shuni Ichido Classmate, I'm not going to read the whole title, by Hanada Usa and Migihara. Uni I Like You, a webtoon by Jungusi. Summer Trend / Lower Dynasty by Yaowa. Drunken My Boss by Bibitan. The manhwa adaptation of a novel entitled Fall, about gangster girls that seems good so far, but I've heard mixed things about the book itself, so I don't know, but I'm putting it here anyway. Winter Before Spring, the new full series version by Arena Comics and Moonbun00. I'm the Only One for Miyagi Miyuki by Suzuo, the author of There's Weird Voices Coming from the Room Next Door and its associated works, which I highly recommend. Yashiro no Mao by Kurota Bibi. Hitokiri Girl Becomes Bodyguard for the Duke's Daughter by Sasatogoro Sumeragi and Miyuki Ruria. Want to Skip School in the Infirmary by Aoto Hibiki, the author of I Want to Spoil Yoroi Zuka-san, and A Collar Only for You. This features Murakubo, a side character from that series, as a main character in this one. Wicked Spot by Sao Jiang, author of Ayaka is in Love with Hiroko, and the queen of drawing toxic, probably physically abusive lesbians, and becoming her lover for the sake of love, and Our Love is Disgusting, both by Shio Usui, who previously created I Married My Female Friend and Donuts Under a Crescent Moon, all of which I highly recommend. Straight up just the goat of making stories about autistic girls with non-standard sexualities like Ace, Demi, and whatever weirdo shit literally every character has going on in Our Love is Disgusting. I love them all, go read them, and of course so many more good GL webtoons, Twitter comics, one-shots, but this after credits thing is getting way too long, and of course, so many more quality manga that started releasing this past year. So much good manga came out in 2024 that I might not have mentioned or even read myself. So please let me know down below in the comments what your favorite manga of 2024 is, because I would love to check it out and talk to you guys about it. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to check out my Patreon if you are interested in more talk about manga and visual novel playthroughs and access to my Discord. Don't forget to subscribe, comment down below your favorite manga of 2024. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Was that weird enough? I think that was weird enough. Okay, see ya.